Yo, what up? What up, Tech Boy? What up, man? Slight technical difficulties. I don't know if it's this damn site or the internet. Have to do a fucking restart. Y'all foul on there, man. Hmm. Lion, what up, man? You know, these Democrats are fucking hilarious. Absolutely fucking hilarious. Cam, what up, man? What up? Stefan, what up? You mean heating up politically? Because you couldn't mean temperature. Well, not where I'm at anyway. The temperature is definitely not heating up here. Shit, right now, 25 degrees, 20 degrees will be a heat wave to us right now. Oh yeah, you know that tide. You know, yeah, I know. Line. Another government shutdown looming on the horizon. That ties into what we about to talk about. Actually, ties right into it. Rodibus, what up, man? I mean, the title of the live. I mean, it is what it is, man. Shit, this is a hole that they dug themselves into. It is. This is a hole that they dug themselves into. Maybe if they had worked harder at cultivating candidates that people want to vote for and agendas that people want to vote for instead of always figuring out a way to cheat an election, they wouldn't be where they are now. Oh, we go get into that. We go get into that, Stefan. Stephen Rice, you spoke yesterday about how the Democratic Party could steal the next election. How could they go about it this time? We'll get into that. And I'm almost certain that that's what's going to happen given the uphill climb that they're facing with reapportionment. Right? But again, this is a hole that they dug themselves into. Nobody else put them here but the Democratic Party. They put themselves here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. Big changes ahead for voting maps after next census. New population estimates from the Census Bureau suggest sharp gains and losses that could reshape the country's politics after 2030. New population estimates from the Census Bureau points to significant changes in the composition of the House after the 2030 census. Using the new data, the Brennan Center estimates that the trends of the last 2 years continue. The South will gain 9 seats in the reapportionment of congressional districts after the next census, the largest single decade gain for the region in history. Florida and Texas could especially see large increases of 4 seats each, with Texas within striking distance of a fifth seat. North Carolina will also see its congressional delegation increase by a seat. Yeah, I've been saying this for over a year now. People just catching on. I don't get it. You're right, Rodimus. Rodimus Rice, you were saying this for the longest time about the census. Yeah. These potential gains are driven overwhelmingly by communities of color. Census data released over the summer shows that between 2022 and 2023, more than 84% of population growth in the South came from increases in the region's Black, Latino, and Asian population, with more than overall half growth coming from Latinos. The majority of this growth, moreover, was just in 4 states: Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas. And here's the map. Here's the map. Look, see that? I see some very important swing states and traditionally blue states losing seats. Y'all see that? Now, understand this. I've been telling y'all this for the longest, right? I've been saying that there were going to be ramifications behind the choice, the political choices they made due to the Trump administration, right? See, y'all got to understand something. There are two factions of elites. Two. Two factions of elites, right? There's one faction of elites that want this as above, so below bullshit, right? They are the ones who want this liberal world order that we have now, if you want to call it that. Notice I say liberal in air quotes, if you want to call it that, right? And then there's the other faction that wants things to go back to how they used to be, that wants basically free range slavery, right? Because this current system is very, very inefficient. It's very inefficient. Sure, in the old model, you might have had some inefficiencies in the means of production because you had more people working. There was less automation. You have more people on the payroll. But isn't it more efficient to have more people on the payroll and maybe a little bit less executive compensation for your trifling ass underlings than it is to just have all of these political dissidents, all of these political fights? Right? And so By my estimation, Trump represents the elites that want free range slavery, right? Whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, right? So the aforementioned liberal world order faction, their plans were for 8 years of Obama, followed by 8 years of Hillary Clinton, to just fundamentally change everything, to everything that you remember about the United States, everything that you remember about Western representative, so-called Western representative democracies. That was the plan. And Trump upstaged that plan. He upstaged that plan, and people wanted the status quo. Even the Republicans wanted the status quo. Never really look at the Republicans as a viable opposition party. They wanted the status quo too. They wanted the status quo too, because the status quo allowed them to make money, just like it allowed the Democrats to make money. Right? So when they plans didn't go to how to when they plans didn't go as they wanted them to go, they said, damn, we got to do something to try to derail this administration. We cannot in any way allow these people to get used to, and see, this is why the Democrats and Republicans did not want this motherfucker in office. You know why? Because they didn't want people to get used to an administration or an administrative class that was responsive to their demands. Just like Pretty Tony said on the Mac, I keep my bitches broke. If they wake up one morning with some money, they subject to go crazy, you know? Same thing. We promise these motherfuckers shit when we try to run. We get in office. We have these bullshit ass political seesaw battles where we get a Democratic president in there, but the whole legislature is Republican. Then we get a Republican in there, the whole legislation is Democrat. It's been mostly a political seesaw battle. If it's a Democrat in there, that's the president, they promise all of these grand spending programs and shit. And then you got a Republican legislature and they say, oh, we can't pass anything because, you know, I'm not a king, I'm just a president, and the Republicans won't let me pass anything. Right? Then when it's a Republican president there, they make sure that the legislature is all Democrats. So now when the Republican president wants to, you know, have all of this austerity and cut back and all of that shit, oh, now he's a racist. And now we get to have a culture war for 4 years. Right? So both sides, people on both sides have profited from this bullshit ass pretend seesaw battle. They wanted the status quo to go both ways. They wanted to go both ways, that somebody gets in office and say all of this shit they're going to do and don't do any of it. And that's what pissed them off the most about Trump, is that they could see that he was actually at least a tiny bit willing to do some of the things that he promised while he was running. That's the part that they didn't like. It wasn't about him being a Republican. It wasn't about none of that shit. It was about him being uninitiated. and naive enough to think, oh, I can actually do what I said. That's what they didn't like. And so the goal became to derail his administration because they didn't want that fresh in people's minds. They didn't want people to even ponder a possibility where somebody would run for the presidency and then actually try to do some of the things that they said they were going to do once they got in office. They didn't want people, no, they wanted the same old status quo. And he upset that status quo. And so the primary goal was to administratively derail his administration. And they had to, because now how do we go back to this status quo? How do we go back to this status quo? You can't. They knew they wouldn't. They knew that there was no way that they would have been able to go back to that status quo. Wasn't gonna work. Saul, what up? So they did everything they could to derail his administration. On day one, they had these dumbass women's marches. I don't know why. I don't remember Trump running saying he's gonna do anything particularly egregious to women. Plus half of the white women voted for him anyway. So I don't understand what the women's marches were about. Nobody cared about that. You know. They tried to make up a racist allegations. Nobody cared about that. None of that shit had legs. They tried an impeachment, didn't work. So they said, God damn, you know what? Let's grind the whole fucking country. Matter of fact, no. Let's grind the entire fucking planet to a halt. Let's grind the entire fucking planet to a halt. And the economy of the entire planet and people's livelihoods and they very lives themselves. Let's grind all of this to a halt to put the freeze on this administration. Now, of course, in the United States, being basically a centralized federation of a whole bunch of different states, that didn't quite go how they wanted it to. So because that didn't quite go how they wanted it to, it ended up in a situation where people began to leave out of the places where the Democrats had the most power, that being the blue states. Right? And when people began to leave these blue states, remember how these politics work. Remember how this works. Remember that for every 700 people or so that you have, that's one congressional seat. Remember that. Right? And so as millions of people began to leave New York, as millions of people began to leave New Jersey, as tens of millions of people began to leave California, and as millions of people began to leave Illinois, then that put them in a quandary. They began to see what had happened. Okay, we successfully brought this first term to a halt. Now, how do we make this his only term? Right? And so the weapons of mass distraction that allowed them to steal the 2020 election were the scamdemic and George Floyd. It's crazy how it was social distancing, stay inside of your house. In some of these states, the police was shooting paintballs at people for opening their door. Nobody could be outside. But then all of a sudden, when George Floyd happened in the summer, right? Then it was okay for people to be outside. They said the rioting, oh, well, people have pent up frustrations. They need to relieve their. Well, wait a minute. What happened to social distancing? So then, after the 2020 election, then all of a sudden everything started to open up again. And not only that, during the summer, even though the COVID numbers were going down, they were circulating memos telling people, hey, in blue states, hey, don't open up your businesses. See if you can talk your mayors or see if you can talk your mayors and your governor into keeping everything locked down, because we don't want to help Trump with the job numbers. That's what they were saying. So because they dug themselves into this hole by running everybody away from blue states, this is what made it necessary for them to flood the zone with these fucking illegal aliens, so these blue states wouldn't lose anything in the congressional apportionment. And not only that, a whole economic ecosystem springs up around all of these populations and immigrants to come in. I'm going to introduce y'all to a term that y'all probably never heard of. Take this map down for a second. I'm going to introduce y'all to a term that you probably never heard of. Has anybody here ever heard of a community navigator? Put a 7 in the chat if you ever heard of a community navigator. I guess I'm gonna have to put the internet up on game one more time. I put y'all up on game about the Office of Refugee Resettlement. Y'all said, hey, I never heard of this shit before you mentioned it, Tito. I was the first nigga to ever say something about that. Stephen said you never heard of that. You never heard of a community navigator. Y'all are about to be so fucking angry when I tell y'all what this is. A community navigator is an individual that works sometimes as being employed by a nonprofit or sometimes freelance, where it is their job to sign up individual refugee people or foreigners or even families of them, to sign them up for as many social programs as they can. And they get paid in commission for each different program that they sign them up for. Because, I mean, think about it. When these people come here, they don't even know fucking English. So you think they can be looking on the internet, and even if these pages that they looking at got translated to their language, they still wouldn't understand what the fuck was going on. Because when I look at the pages of other countries' governments translated to English, I don't get a full scope of what's going on. That's a community navigator. Rashida writes, question, how do you feel about the Bush propaganda? For me, it feels similar to the blame Trump stuff now. What do you feel the media goal was at the point of this bigger democratic scheme? The whole point of this, if you mean um of keeping illegal aliens here, the point was to keep voters here, or to at least keep these states with the amount of electoral college votes that they want. Because when it comes to electoral college, the Republicans always start off at a they have a 200 they have a 250 vote favorite baseline when they start off, right? So that's why these swing states and shit become extremely important, because when it comes to electoral college vote, the Democrats start off at a disadvantage. They start off at like they start off with like 211 electoral votes, and the Republicans automatically start off with 250 or better, right? So they couldn't afford to lose any electoral votes. Now, of course, they make the claim that these illegal aliens can't vote. Yeah, that sounds good on paper, but don't think that with the corruption in some of these blue areas that they not voting in other people's places. Don't think that they not voting in people's places that are mentally incapacitated and can't vote. Don't think that they not voting in people's places that are bedridden in nursing homes or doing, lifetime bids in prison. Trust me, they going and voting in their place. Look at what we just saw in Wisconsin. A guy, they did an audit of the voter rolls in Wisconsin, and they said that it was damn near 8 million people registered to vote, even though they only got a little bit more than 3.1 million adults in the state. Think about that. Yeah, 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 Rodimus. Rodimus writes, that makes perfect sense, because I wonder how people without even a bare bones understanding of English get these high paying jobs, brand new current model year car, for a more bedroom house, etc. Yeah, that's them community navigators steering them to all of that shit. Yeah, so when all these Somalians and Nigerians get in here, and these Jamaicans talking about, we just came here and we doing better than you, they gaslighting you. They gaslighting you. They didn't even know how to read good enough. They ain't even know how to read good enough to apply for the benefits that they getting. They wouldn't even know where to look. And Jamaicans' native language is English. They still would come here and wouldn't know where the fuck to look. They wouldn't know where to look. You could bring somebody from any of them countries where they speak English at. Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, um, the Grenada, Saint Lucia, Trinidad, and you could they not gonna know what to look up. You think they gonna know what to look up? You think that, or you think they gonna know what the aid office is, or what the program is even called? No, somebody is doing that for them. It's people out here whose occupation is to do that for them. Community navigators. Community navigator. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and bust the game all the way out, man. Yeah, let me bust the game all the way out for y'all, man. I got to do this again, man. Just in case somebody come and see this replay and be like, oh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just a xenophobe. You see what that says? Community navigator. Community navigator program coordinator. See that? Posted 21 days ago. 40 to $45,000 a year, full-time position, paid time off, dental insurance, and health insurance. Bilingual community navigator. See that? See that? Damn right about that, Rodimus. Oh, they get paid commission, though, Tech Boy. Rodimus writes, I'm dead serious. Tito just pulled the plug on the I only came here with $5 in my pocket and then blocked the door to prevent resuscitation. You know what? I was actually go write about this in one of the books that I had upcoming. The $5 and a Dream book that I had planned. I was going to write about the community navigator shit. See? Community navigator. Let's look up community navigator programs. Look, and this is some worldwide. Look at this. Community navigator jobs, London. Community navigator jobs, Belfast. You see that? This is worldwide. Worldwide, they have people that live in developed Western countries whose job it is to steer illegal immigrants, illegal aliens to programs using your tax dollars. You see that? Yeah, that was a gaslight, Rodimus. Y'all couldn't tell. Y'all really used to let them niggas get under y'all skin with that shit. I knew it all along. I used to like, man, get your musty ass out of here. Everything you had given to you, fam. I'm not falling for that bullshit. Rodimus writes, it's funny because it makes me mad at the same time. All my life, they've pulled that I did it with nothing. What's your excuse? That's a gaslight, bruh. That's a gaslight. That's a gaslight. Just like when these broke assholes stand up in the club talking about where my independent ladies at and they raise their glass. Bitch, sit your ass down. Bitch, sit your ass down. You no, stop. You not that. You is not that. You not that. You not independent, bitch. Sit down. What's wrong? Y'all mad? Y'all mad because y'all ain't know about this, huh? Y'all good and pissed off now, huh? Y'all good and pissed off. Now that y'all understand that it's somebody, it's individuals out here who is getting paid with your tax dollars to steer somebody to a program to take more of your tax dollars. Now y'all see why the fuck they keep banning me. Now y'all see why. Now y'all see why. What y'all thought they was banning me for roasting people? No, hell no. They banned me for telling the fucking truth. They banned me because I tell the fucking truth. That's right. Be mad. Be mad. Be mad. What y'all thought they was banning me because I tell y'all about all the little sneaky games these hoes play? No, man, they don't care about that. Here you go, a community navigator. Now I just put the whole fucking internet up on game. Now I just put the whole internet up on game, just like with the Office of Refugee Resettlement. So I guess Philip's got to be talking about this in about a week or two, right? Of course, Rodimus. Of course. How about job interviews that went well and then you get passed over for some nigga that don't speak English? Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Hey, I don't care who talk about it first. Long as word get out. Long as word get out. Yep. Community navigators. Yep. Yep. It all makes sense now, don't it? It all makes sense now, right? All of the $5 and the dream narratives. All of the that we worked hard and we saved our money. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. They got an Office of Refugee Resettlement. They got community navigators. They got zero interest loans. They got no taxation for 7 years. No wonder. No wonder. Tech Boy writes, they get that. We get cracking firearms dropped in our communities. And a lot of times, it was these same immigrants that was the ones bringing the crack. Oh, they ain't ready for that discussion. They not ready for that discussion. Oh, and they also help with job interviews, huh? So what, they'll come there and talk English for you in the interview? Yeah. I've been telling people for that for the longest, Lion. Lion writes, yup, and white trash couldn't make it without the Homestead Act and the illegals get community navigators. Yeah, the white middle class is a creation of the United States government through the Homestead Act and the GI and inequitable application of the GI Bill. Rodimus writes, Tito, yes, look up on job applications. It has a section for is an interpreter filling out an application for you. I didn't think much of it now, but I'm like, motherfucker, yeah, dude, does an interpreter fill out anything for you? Yeah. Now y'all see what I was talking about. And so that's why you see all of the angst and all of the hyperventilating over deportations, because these deportations without the, with these deportations taking place, the numbers begin not to make sense for the Democrats no more. Not only does it make them harder to win the presidential election, but it also makes it harder for them to steal local elections. It makes it harder for them to do that shit too. Because some of these Democratic mayors and governors, they are so fucking unpopular with their policies that they actually agitate people that have previously been apathetic to vote against them. Right? So if you have an area get stripped of a lot of their population, then that's less of a chance for you to cheat the election because there's not many people there. Let me give you an example. Let's say you had a city where it was like 8 million people, right? Let's say you had a city where it was 8 million people. And you swole up the population of 12 million people with illegal immigrants, right? And let's just say that this status quo of this inflated population by way of illegal immigration, let's say that status quo lasted for about a decade or so, right? So you have policies that out of your original 8 million people, 5 million of them didn't like them. Right? So, under the Democratic model of registering people twice, using people that's locked up in the penitentiaries and all type of shit for decades and shit, and registering them to vote, dead people and all of this shit, you can dilute the power of the people that don't like your policies. You can dilute the political power to vote of the people that are not in favor of your policies. And then the few people that you do have that are in favor of your policies are usually people that's on the government dole for you through patronage jobs, whether they in the school board, whether they in streets and sanitation, whether they in city hall clerk or whatever, right? So you keep the feds off of you and the numbers make sense. But let's just say that one day somebody came in and they deported 3 million of those 4 million illegal aliens. And so now your population in the area goes from that 12 million, and I just said, down to 9 million. Now, when you go and try to steal the election, the numbers aren't going to look right anymore. The numbers not going to add up no more. Let me tell you how. Most people do not vote. Most people do not vote. Like a little bit above, somewhere in between the number, like 30 to 40% of people I go vote in the election, right? So in this hypothetical that I gave y'all, where y'all had a population of 12 million people at large, right? And the election turnout will usually be about 5 million, right? And the votes will always go 5 or 6 million, and the votes will always go in your favor. Whenever it reached that 6 million mark, people can say that that's a little bit suspicious, but you can explain it away by saying, hey, we were voting on referendums and hot button issues, and it brought people out. Okay. So then now, out of that 12 million, when you take away 3 million, and then now out of the remaining 9 million, if you still got 5 million people or better voting, the fraud becomes obvious. The fraud becomes obvious because most people are disinterested in voting. This ain't like no communist country where it's mandatory that you go vote. Most people, the override majority of people, are disinterested in voting. They disinterested in the political process. They apathetic that they vote don't even count. So another reason that they want the populations of these areas swelled by illegal aliens is not just for presidential politics and electoral vote. It's so it will make it easier to facilitate them stealing all of the local elections too. You know what? You know what would be funny? You know what would be funny? If Trump said, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop deportations for 1 month. And as soon as he said that, he automatically started sending government agents to confiscate computers and voter rolls and shit in all of these blue state city halls where he got the warrants and he just went in there. That would set off a bigger riot than immigration. I'm going to tell you right now, that would set off an even bigger riot than immigration. Because they would know at that point that they fucking done. Do y'all know that even in the 1960 general election, when Kennedy ran against Nixon, in Cook County, they say that 14,000 dead people voted. This is what they do though. They swell these electoral rolls, and it allows them to get away with stealing elections. You know what? I have reason to believe that quite possibly the Democratic Party has never ever legitimately won an election in the entire history of the fucking party. I don't think they ever won a legitimate election, especially when you talk about in modern times. Hell, we just not coming off of a 30-year injunction where the Republicans weren't even allowed to have poll watchers at national elections. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that back in 1986 that they actually got an injunction against the RNC where the Republicans couldn't even have poll watchers at general elections? They've stole all of these elections back to back to back to back to back on you motherfuckers. Back to back, goddammit. Back to back. Yeah, no news. They don't want voter ID because a national voter ID will absolutely spell the end of the Democratic Party. None of the numbers will make sense after that. None of the numbers will make sense. That would a national voter ID. It's a wrap. The fucking Democratic Party will fucking evaporate into steam and just if they ever had a national voter ID, and not just for not just for general elections, for any local election, anything, any special election, runoff, whatever. Yeah, that would spell the complete fucking end of the Democratic Party. The complete end. It'd be a fucking wrap. Straight up. Well, all right, man. I'm gonna come back at 5:15. We go talk about this false flag attack on Ilhan Omar at 5:15. In the meantime, have fun being angry about the community navigators now that I don't put y'all up on game. Have fun, man. Have fun, man. Yep. All right, man. It's been